I'm going to share with you the criteria that the IELTS examiners use to assess your speaking skill during the IELTS examination. I'm also going to share with you just a brief explanation of what each criterion mean. The first criterion is pronunciation. It basically means just what it is. Pronunciation or how you pronounce words. You have to make sure that the examiner is able to understand you, which means that you have to pronounce the words accordingly or how they're supposed to be pronounced. Because even if your grammar is good, your vocabulary is great, if you're not able to pronounce these words well and the examiners are not able to understand you because you've mispronounced a couple of words that led to them not being able to understand the thought of what you were trying to say, then you might not have a good grade in this criterion. The next criterion is lexical resource or vocabulary. It just means that you are able to use different types of words and you're able to use these words effectively and correctly. It doesn't really mean that you have to use high-level words. It just means that you're able to use or show a range of vocabulary and that you are using them properly. If you are not familiar with how to use an idiom or high-level words, it's in your best interest to just avoid them, because if you're using them because you thought you're like showing off that, oh, I know how to use these words and idioms, and as it turns out you're using them incorrectly, then you'll get a mark down. So vocabulary is where using synonyms of words come in. So like if you were talking about something beautiful during your speaking test, and if you've already used the words beautiful, then you can use synonyms of that word like gorgeous, cute, breathtaking. What I'm just saying is that try to study different synonyms of words and use them and apply this during your IELTS speaking test. You have to use vocabulary as a tool to help you communicate clearly and not to show off. Fluency is your ability to use the language or to speak in English easily and accurately. A lot of conditions come into play, such as proper grammar, proper use of vocabulary, and proper pronunciation. So basically, like all of the criteria in the speaking test combined together comes into the fluency part, because for you to be fluent, you need to be able to accurately use and speak the language, right? So that's what it is, I believe. And coherence means being logical and consistent. So it means that if you're like speaking in past tense, you have to be consistent all throughout and not all over the place, if that makes sense. This criterion again means that you have to be fluent in speaking and using the language, and you have to be logical and consistent. The next criterion is grammatical range and accuracy. I think this is one of the things that I've had a hard time with, because the English grammar is totally different than Filipino, which is my mother tongue or my mother language, and it's quite tricky to use the English grammar accurately. We're all already familiar with grammar, like the use of past, present, and future tenses. And I think one of the things that are tricky for us Filipinos is the usage of pronouns, because sometimes we use the pronouns he for a girl and then she for a boy. We interchangeably, mistakenly use these pronouns. So I think that's one of the easy yet tricky part of grammar. Each of the criteria carry equal weighing, and the overall average gives the IELTS score for speaking. And if you're wondering where I'm getting this from, it's actually from the main IELTS website itself at IELTS.org, and understanding IELTS scores. So just right down here are the section band scores and how your IELTS grades are calculated. I'm not a teacher, I'm not an IELTS tutor. I'm just showing with you guys what I've learned from my past review, since I already took my IELTS exam and I got a band 8 in my speaking test.
Sharing lang dala pang panghinambog